Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, whatever the case may be for you. I'm going to go over the writing and naming polyatomic ions. This is homework number 4, right? And so keep in mind, anytime you do this, you should always have your periodic table and your polyatomic ion charts in front of you, right? I do not expect you to memorize, but here we go. All right, so I'm going to do the names first, right? So starting with the names, this is going to be copper, sulfate, but we have to remember that copper is a transition metal, so that means in the name I have to include the Roman numeral. And I got to look at the formula to figure out what the charge is on copper. SO4 I can look up. Because there are no parentheses and no subscripts, I know I have one of each. So that means in order for these charges to equal 0, the charge on copper has to be +2. So then I'm going to write the Roman numeral 2. Right? This is potassium chlorate, right? Ammonium hydroxide, right? Magnesium sulfate, calcium carbonate, running out of room, potassium hydroxide, aluminum phosphate, right? Let me scroll up here. Barium sulfate, sodium hydroxide, lithium sulfate, sodium acetate, lithium chlorate, zinc. I got to double check on zinc. For transition metals, there are some transition metals. If you look on your basic table or the copy of the periodic table that I handed you guys before we left, before the last time I saw you, not all transition metals have multiple charges, right? I'm trying to find, oh, there we go. All right. So if you look at the back, that is not it. And I'm getting the spinning wheel of death. If you look at the back of your periodic table, and I may have to post one, if it doesn't have a multiple charge, then you don't have to write the Roman numeral, right? But doing it as we've been talking about it, this would be zinc sulfate, right? We could put 2 there. Ammonium iodide, right? Just going to keep going. Potassium carbonate, right? I believe, hang on one moment, that this is going to be ammonium bicarbonate, right? Wait, oh, I just went back to it. Complete charge sheet, that's what I want. Okay. Yeah, zinc. So zinc, that's what I thought. Zinc doesn't need a Roman numeral because it only has one charge if you look at the back of your, and I may post this so that you guys have it if you need it. Yeah, so this is ammonium bicarbonate. Right. Manganese, be careful, that's Mn. It is not magnesium, but it's manganese. And I need to include the Roman numeral here because manganese is a transition metal, has more than one, right? This is going to be gold 1 sulfate. And the way I figure this out here, that it's Roman numeral 1, is I know that sulfate is -2, right? So if I have 2 silvers, or 2 golds, excuse me, that means it has to be +1, right? For these to equal 0. So if I think of it 1 times 2, right? That's reversing the crisscross, right? Lithium hydroxide. And then potassium bicarbonate. And I apologize if my writing is hard to read. You guys have terrible handwriting. Okay, so just naming, right? Let's go back up to the top and let's do the formulas. So here, you're always looking up the charges, right? And you're crisscrossing, and the charge becomes the subscript. And if it's a polyatomic and you want to add more than 1, then you put parentheses around it. So this is +1 -2. So I'm going to crisscross. So it's going to be Na2SO4, right? Potassium carbonate, same thing, +1 -2, K2CO3. Ammonium is the only positive, right? -1. So again, if those charges equal 0, I just write it like this. Magnesium is +2, hydroxide is -1. So this is important. Here, I have to put parentheses around the whole thing. The 2 goes outside. Zinc really doesn't need a Roman numeral because we know it's always +2. But nitrate is -1, Zn, NO3. I have to put parentheses around that whole thing. And then the 2 goes outside the parentheses, right? Calcium, again, +2, -1, right? Sodium carbonate, right? That's going to be, whoops, +1, -2, right? So Na2CO3, aluminum and nitrate. So AlNO3, right? And if I crisscross, the 3 goes outside the parentheses. So +1 -3. Here it's going to be Na3PO4. Aluminum. And then I crisscross the SO4. I have to put parentheses around the whole thing. The 3 goes outside. Okay. Barium hydroxide. +2 -1. That's going to be BaOH parentheses 2. Ammonium fluoride. NH4F. I don't need any subscripts because I have 1 of each. The charge is equal 0. +1 bicarbonate is -1, right? I think I notice it's a double here, right? So if you're paying attention. Copper 2 phosphate. Now the Roman numeral here is telling me the charge on copper, right? So Cu3, to put parentheses around that whole thing, the 2 goes outside. +2 -1. Strontium nitrate, right? Strontium is +2, nitrate is -1. Whoops. Right? Potassium carbonate, +1 -2. Sodium nitrite, +1 -1. So it's just NaNO3, +2 -1, right? Calcium hydroxide. And then ammonium nitrate, +1 -1. That's going to be NH4NO3. Okay, so that is writing formulas and naming with polyatomic ions, but keep in mind I want you to be able to do both, right? And by both I mean that you should be able to do it for binary and polyatomic, and that's what we're going to move into next. All right, take care.